Hey everybody, it's Atheist for the Cause here with another video for you, and this time it's a article review from the Washington Post that says it's titled British Outrage Over Alleged US Leaks in the Manchester Bomb Investigation. Now, what I'm starting to notice is this narrative developing among the mainstream media that is basically it's constantly around leaking, and it seems to be trying to make the Trump administration look incompetent and basically undermine it. And who knows, maybe this is their plan to, for a path to impeachment, to say, oh, Trump keeps leaking information and his administration keeps leaking information, so he must be gone. Or it could maybe not be that extreme, and they're just trying to create negative attention for Trump, because obviously the Washington Post, as much as anybody, hates Trump. So here, let's go through, and I'm going to show you I'm going to point out a couple things that it's not exactly honest by the Washington Post. I know that's hard to believe, but so it says British indignation over alleged American leaks to investigate material related to the Manchester bombing will likely create a charged environment Thursday when the British Prime Minister Theresa May meets with President Trump in Brussels. Leaks from the ongoing investigation, including publishing crime scene photos in the New York Times and the naming of the suspected bomber by U.S. broadcasters, have provoked ire from British officials. Now, I don't know who leaked it, but I do know one thing. Anybody who did is against Trump, because there's no way Trump or anybody on his side that's close to him would leak anything to the New York Times. The New York Times has been consistently, like the Washington Post, one of those papers that has gone after him extremely hard, and it makes no sense for Trump or anybody close to him to leak that information. Now, there could be someone more connected to, say, a John McCain or, other conservative, or maybe conservative is the wrong term, other Republicans that are trying to undermine Trump in his administration. So that's something to point out right there. And we don't even know where the leak came from. So, we don't know really if they're even how close they're tied to Trump. It could be a deep state official, which would make a lot of sense, actually. The breaches could undermine the extremely close intelligence sharing between the U.S. and Britain. According to a report in the BBC, British police investigating the Manchester attack have now decided to withhold information from the U.S. in the wake of the leaks. Okay, so they're making this between the British and U.S. now. I gotta go a little farther. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. It says Greater Manchester Police hopes to resume normal intelligence relationships, a two-way flow of information soon, but is currently furious, said the British broadcaster. Well, it says British police chiefs across the country have also criticized the leaks in a highly unusual statement. We greatly value the important relationships we have with our trusted intelligence, law enforcement, and security partners around the world, said the National Police Chiefs Council in a statement. When that trust is breached, it undermines these relationships and undermines our investigations and the confidence of victims, witnesses, and their families. This damage is even greater when it involves unauthorized disclosure of potential evidence in the middle of a major counterterrorism investigation. I can see why they would get mad if something's leaked, but I guess I'd have to see what damage was actually done to, freak out about it. On Wednesday morning, Amber Rudd, Britain's Home Security, said, I think it's more about the principle to them. But on Wednesday morning, Amber Rudd, Britain's Home Security, said that leaks in the U.S. media were irritating and should not happen again. Hours later, the New York Times published a series of detailed forensic photographs from the crime scene that showed, among other things, fragments of a blue backpack that may have contained the assailant's bomb. They also included a graphic of the area where the bomb exploded, pinpointing where the victims' bodies were found. Alright, here's the point where I think the Washington Post is starting to get into some deception. The growing frustration of British officials comes as allies are already smarting from Trump's disclosure of classified information about an Islamic State threat to the Russian foreign minister and ambassador. Now, it says as allies. This really has nothing to do with the British and the U.S., this disclosure. And the disclosure they're talking about is this, it says Trump revealed highly classified information to Russian foreign minister and ambassador. And if you look through this article, there's like barely any mention to Britain, as it's actually attributed to Israel. Israel was the country that allegedly had the information about the laptop bombs, and Trump said something about there being laptop bombs, but he didn't say what country it came from. But Israel is the country that was leaked by the New York Times. So, yeah, you can look through this article. It says like almost nothing about Britain. In fact, I think the only Britain that comes up is the United States and Britain imposed a similar ban in March, affecting travelers passing through airports in 10 Muslim majority countries. So that's it. That's what all of this whole thing is like. I don't even know why they would bring this up, really. It's not really tied. So and to give you an idea of like how deceptive they're really being, let's go to one of their own articles. It says leakers who revealed Israel as intelligence source did far more damage than Trump. Now, Washington Post is a publisher that hates Trump with a passion. And yet even they've said that, this Mark Thyssen, maybe he's a unicorn in the Washington Post, I don't know. But probably not. But even they have said that this was like Trump wasn't at fault. The information he gave really wasn't that bad. It's the people who revealed that it was Israel's role in leaking this information. That's what did the damage, because then that puts, the spy at risk, basically, who collected the information. And what do you know? The New York Times is the one reporting it again. So the New York Times has some sort of contact within probably the deep state that they can then make it look like it's within Trump's administration, because the deep state says they see all the same, things that Trump sees, and probably more. The president actually doesn't see, like, all of the information that comes in, so the deep state will see far more. And when I say the deep state, I'm talking about our intelligence agencies like the CIA, that a lot of what they do is off the books, and even what's on the books is, not always going to the president or all these different agencies. A lot of times they're acting outside the law, especially the CIA. So that just gives you an idea of the deception to bring in this Russian narrative that really has nothing to do with the UK. The whole leaker situation was between Israel and the U.S. It had nothing to do with the U.K., and it wasn't even Trump's fault for the most part. It was the New York Times that published it, and whoever their source was that did most of the damage. So the Washington Post is kind of back and forth on this one. You know, they know what they're saying. They know they're being dishonest. But they just don't care, I guess, and anything to get at Trump, even if it harms the country. And this is why a lot of us voted Trump in. We need to drain the swamp, and unfortunately, the media has, I think it's worse than a lot of people even thought. The media is a part of the swamp, a major part. I mean, we all knew it. I guess it's just to what extent it really was. And to be fair, I am grouping Washington Post all as like one publisher, one entity, because it is, and I think they do have one goal. But this is written by Carla Adam, which is a freelancer in London, and she's worked for the New York Times and People, and now she's writing for Washington Post London Bureau. So that's not the same guy who... Mark Tyson is the guy who wrote this other article. So sometimes you can have authors with conflicting information. And then Greg Miller and Greg Jaff wrote these Jaffe. So all of these articles are written by different people. Then to finish this up, it says Andy Burnham, the mayor of Greater Manchester, said that he complained to the acting U.S. ambassador, Louis Lukens, that the leaks were undermining the investigation. These leaks are completely unacceptable and must stop immediately, he said. This behavior is arrogant and is undermining the investigation into the horrific attack on the city of Manchester. So we'll see what else comes out, but I really don't like that the Washington Post is trying to pin this on Trump. It seems to have nothing to do with Trump. And I really think that it's... I know a lot of people are looking from within Trump's administration, but I really do think this is coming from the deep state. The deep state has never liked Trump from the beginning. They have actually actively given him misinformation during the campaign. That they admitted to. They have given him like half information. So, and it's possible that they're still withholding information from him to this day. So there's a battle between the deep state and Trump, and we'll see what happens, but just don't jump to the conclusion that Trump's in the wrong here. So that's all I have for now. I'll talk to you guys later, and I'm sure I'll have something more tomorrow. So like, subscribe, and share. Helps me a lot. I'm still really small trying to get this thing off the ground. So I can respond to you guys quite a bit. So if you have any ideas for topics or anything you want me to get into, whether that's gender politics, religion, something else, let me know. And especially election stuff, I really follow the elections closely, and I love talking about that. So all right, I'll talk to you guys later.